Hello. Hi. How's everybody doing today? Happy new moon. This is the new moon total solar eclipse, July 2nd, 2019. This is the collective intuition. So just tuning into the energies of the collective and seeing what comes through regarding paradigm shift energies, spiritual awakening, mass global spiritual awakening on planet Earth, shifting humanity to higher vibrations or simply more abundant, loving, compassionate. Compassion is something that's coming through so powerful lately, and feeling the energies. Good morning, Faith. How are you, gorgeous? It's all reflections, right? Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, compassion is like this overarching theme. Yesterday, I could actually very, very tangibly feel the shifting energies, and it may have been like, well, it would have been just an alignment happening in the planets, and then I could like just feel this shift happening of like we're really, really moving into these new energy portals, and they are really supportive. So there's a huge part of the collective now. Huge. It's not actually huge compared to the billions that live here, but there's a critical mass part of the collective moving into greater mastery of self. This is just, and again, when we talk and use these words, there really is no attachment. There's no egoic attachment in as far as externalizing power. That's part of the paradigm shift, is that now we're from a perspective of love and compassion, we lead with that kind of strength and sovereignty, rather than from a weirdly in denial of being disempowered and then projecting our power out there, and then all of us controlling and dominating each other. So and this is the overarching theme on this channel. You guys know, if you've watched quite a few of my videos, that I had the awakenings at 19, and then ultimately part of that awareness was this paradigm shift, this deep knowing, this sort of childhood dream idea of like living in a more harmonious world. And I'm randomly for some reason thinking of that book Utopia, and then conversations over my life of like, that's not possible, though you're being unrealistic, you're being, and again, it's increasingly on this path and on this journey. Yes, we are aware that we do have to remove the veils, we do have to come away from illusions. But to me, the biggest part of coming away from illusions is not living in denial, feeling the fullness of your aliveness, right? And so we're having, and I often use this expression, lids are popping off. So, and worlds are crumbling, like walls of the illusion are crumbling for people. And really, like, more and more people are just going to wake up and be guided. Hey, Julie, how are you? Nice to see you. I'm having certain thoughts that I'm not going to just, I'm not going to poop out right now. Oh, Deborah, thank you. That makes me want to cry a little bit. Yeah. You guys. Okay. It's just hot love. It's just the love hot vibrashe, right? Hi, Melvin. Welcome, Melvin Jackson, everybody. Melvin's new to the channel. You appeared just within the last couple of days. And Dustin, Mike, hi Mike, how are you? It is like that. You agreed and came. It does often, like, legit inside feel like that. Responding to a call. whilst traveling, adventuring through the cosmos, just like, and then like stopping in your like space-time track, being like, whoa, what is that place? What are those humans doing? Oh gosh, golly, that looks fun. And then we got here and we're like, ah! We just got killed over and over again. We're like, oh, fucking hell. Torture zone, torture zone. But we chose the ride from darkness into light, from suffering into joy. I really feel that we can really simplify the historical and or even our personal historical context on Earth as simply choosing to move from an energy of separation into unity, or choosing to move in form, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Moving from, yeah, contraction, darkness, and suffering into light, expansion, and love. Because that to me is more than enough reason to incarnate and embody on this planet, to experience love. Because in my awareness, sans physical apparatus like this, there's way less dynamism. That's just some random insight that I'm getting. Like when we're just more soul spirit, we're very much more neutral than we are in these spacesuits. I don't know, like human body. Remember how when we were little, we just thought that was all there is? We're just like, you're just a body. Try not to get sick and die too young. We're like, okay. Like, I don't know what we're doing here, but all right. Like, let's try not to die. And they're like, just work for us. And you're like, okay. I just. Hey, Melvin, that's kind of you, my friend. I mega appreciate. Sometimes I trigger the shit out of people as well, apparently, but that's okay. I'm starting to get used to it now. The level of energy here, we have to raise it up. That's pretty much what's going on here. Is all we're doing is like going from suffering, going, this hurts, going, how do I navigate out of the suffering? And then most of us end up finding either yoga or some spirituality or some wisdom, and then it like activates us, or people, right? People, we like, yeah, it activates our energy, and then we have these remembrances and or awakenings. And then throughout this awakening, it's like all we're really guided to do is just be ourselves and be like, guys, like, wake up from the dream spell of the 3D matrix grid. The beast, the man, the system, which is really, again, this is the weird metaphysical construct of it, is that it's our own disempowered energy out there enslaving us. Hence why when I talk about in the Fearless Life Guide, and ultimately I talk about this all the time, but I'm like, the only fear we ever have to face is our own fear. The feelings. Fear isn't something out there. Fear is something we feel, right? Right? If you think about it, really? It's not like you're seeing a boogeyman out there being like, you're not, so how do I describe? You're not having the experience of fear out there. Look, guys, I'm scared. Look at it. No, you're having the visceral feeling of So my Fearless Life Guide is being like, if you like hold space for all that, it moves through you, and you can like be present with fear and be like, wait a minute, do I have to be afraid of that? Is that really real? Is that really important? No, it's not. Holy shit, what more is coming? Fear, anxiety, depression, anger, like all of these things. And then eventually you just get better at like, no matter what is going on, you can be like, whoo, like a Jedi master, more like energy master, because no matter what's going on in your field, even if it feels really uncomfortable, hence getting used to feeling, which we've been denied to do for so long, we're like, oh God. Plus people are really ashamed of their feelings, right? Again, I talk about this, but collectively it's like, what's wrong for feeling? You're like, oh God, we're all just supposed to be desensitized robots. Part of the reason we all got put down on TVs by the time we were 3, you know? And then increasingly we see the young ones like, oh, we're like, oh God, wake up. I believe this wake up though is, again, it's only our attachment to time that perpetuates fear cycles as well. Time and space are an illusion of our own constructed linearity as well. And hence why when you merge into the intuition imagination, time ceases to exist. Time listness takes over, and then really it's just presence. I watched something this morning and it reminded me of like, we're no longer in like, just take it one day at a time, you guys. It's like, take it just one breath, half a breath. Just take it like 1/2 second of a breath at a time, and you'll be all right. Like, don't go way out in the future. We need to discipline our mind to relieve ourselves of the past and just be in the here and now, feeling the stuff and be like, "Well, there's like anxiety. Oh my God, I might love you. Oh my God, I'm not sure." Like, we just have to get used to feeling, and this is like the huge, like, well, I've said this before on these channels, but like, this is a turning point for sure. My words are too should be to sit with I feel really well. Exactly, exactly. And then we just get better and better at that. And then eventually those bass tones, some of those, the fear, the guilt, the shame, certainly for my own self, the biggest, some of the biggest, deepest, longest, ugliest transitions was the shame and the guilt. And then the layers of that. The recent Dark Night of the Soul for me was very much about mother father wounding, and then also a bit about discernment around collective energy clearings, especially for those of us empathics who are in service and ultimately doing the energy work behind the scenes. For someone like me sharing like this and having the Fearless Life Guide, it's important for me to be able to discern um, the role, the function, as it were, as far as our ability to discern like our own personal karma, our ancestry and lineage. And then when we move through collective zones, we can actually feel and sense, and also by our own perspective interpretation, sense collective programs. Increasingly, for communities like this, the healers and the new paradigm community leaders and stuff like that, um, this is the work as we move into the new phase, more and more so. We've this the reason we're going to start to feel a little bit lifted is simply because we're getting used to the new way of being, i.e., feeling, being present, being self-responsible, moving into our sovereignty continuously, learning how to be in reflection and presence with people, but not entangling ourselves. So, but we're imagine leading edge. We're like, out front and pulled apart from the mass collective, right? So our ability now to shift gears and come into a sense of compassionate mastery for how the energy dance outworks and outplays, we then recognize that our function, because we're coming into a karmic completion cycle for many of us in this empath community or light worker, indigo, whatever. So we're closing off these really, and I call it the bass tones, right? Or you take Sasha's expressions, the bass tone, and I always knew this intuitively, that you keep spiraling up, spiraling up, spiraling up, and at some point you hit a critical mass, boom, and like the bottom drops. So for someone like me, I can feel and sense and know that certain bass tone, lifelong childhood dense patterns that I've been carrying along the last 20 years, slowly outworking, slowly outworking, slowly outworking, boom, this is the drop. I literally tangibly felt it shift yesterday. So we're moving, we're some of that shame and guilt and that bass tone, because there's a lot of us in the community now that have essentially been healing that core wounding, which just goes right up the central pillar. Most of us will create experiences of heartache and great distress in order to activate the central channel. As long, yes, we're doing the discipline of the mind. That's a very important piece, but more importantly is that we hold it, and we just have to walk through the gate of hell, as it were, through that energy body to be able to emerge, rise like the phoenix, and essentially rise ourselves into these new levels of compassion, so that we radiate greater light frequency and greater codes into the collective. We don't have to be necessarily talking or saying anything. It's just in our energy. It's in the beingness that we are. You bring it out in me, and I bring it out in you, and you bring it out in me, and I bring it out in you. And it's just this continuous unfolding from within the self, but it's a regenesis self. So it's the reverse of the world's thinking. It's not what we've been programmed to think at all. This is a big part of showing up to share, of stepping in and being guided to work in different areas. And I'm seeing that in my personal life and people that are setting themselves off on the journey or have been doing this now for 2, 3, 4 years. is that they're stepping up into new levels of healing modalities, creating new pathways and junctures for themselves. It's like the world that used to have 3 different doors now has like 26 or something, right? And we're now navigating this greater sense of infinite dimensionality versus finite 3D matrix system, right? And ultimately a big shift in this portal now is that we're now actually disentangling from and this is why for the light worker community we're stepping into greater service for the whole, knowing and discerning the collective programs, which means boys and girls, we were all collectively programmed to think certain things about each other. That's all got to go. We've been trained to think certain things about the system, about the world. That's all got to go. So we're now starting to shift into a discernment factor. Our personal karma of base tone energy has now been cut out. So now we start shifting and embodying a greater, like the bubble. So the bubble might have been just me and my container, but now the bubble is like the whole of the southwest of England or the whole of the south coast, right? Or the whole of the wherever. Again, we needn't attach any sense of grandiosity. This is just an intuitive awareness of awakening energy that's permeating through the earth. It's happening as above, so below, as within, as without. And this is something that for many of us, the reason you're gravitating to this channel, it's a soul agreement. Collective agreements, just like we all agreed to create the system, a function of our own disempowered separation state of darkness, what we call evil, what we call, deception. That is now the shadow aspect of self that we must face in order to transform it into something different. And the more of us that endeavor that task, the more of us that walk into that reality, i.e. the utopia, a heaven on earth. But again, these expressions are nothing to do with how we were programmed to buy into and or deny the concepts of a better world. I was starting to have flashback memory of childhood, of just how early on we begin to be desensitized. And this is coming from an 82 baby, born in the 80s. So my personal upbringing, I played a lot outside. So I still consider myself quite lucky comparatively to some of the young kids and just being given TVs, devices, and like not playing outside, right? Because, yeah. And so I I still played a lot, and I remember that. I remember playing outside in fields and creeks and nature and all of that. But I also remember watching TV. And I also remember the impact of the first time I saw violence and the first time I saw war, and how it has shaped me and the woman I am today. I'm still talking about that, right? So imagine en masse starting to propagate that energy, fear, war, fear. And let's be honest, when we're in high school in North America, because that's my imprint, that's what I'm sharing with you, but it's the same here in the UK, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in Australia, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar in New Zealand and various other countries. It's just targeted for their demographic. But the constricted control domination system, most of us learned a very specific type of history, didn't we? And this is also connected to my spiritual awakenings after going to the University of British Columbia and majoring in women's studies, was that we learn a very specific history. And what is it? We learn about war and politic. And sometimes you might study a bit about like religion, maybe. But certainly if you didn't go to a Catholic or religious school, that's not like important. You're going to learn about all the different wars on this planet, and then you're going to learn about the politic so you know exactly how it works. And then I'm like retracing that whole phase of adolescence. And then the reason I bounced after doing that first year of UBC, learning that only like 2% of the world's population even had access to university education, let alone the information that I was learning. And that's the whole phase of the awakening that I talk about, or I don't actually talk about it much, but like part of the externalization of volatility around this awakening is the fact that for a lot of us, when we begin this awakening process, again, it's not like, presence, like bliss. Oh my God. It's like burning rage. It's like, I sort of embodied probably that raging feminist energy for a long time, because I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how did you not share this information with me when I was 12 years old? and putting my fingers down my throat, you know? Like how and it so I was angry. I was angry at the world for not telling me this information that could have made such a difference in my well-being as a teenager, you know? And then I bought a one-way ticket to England and fucked off. You know, no idea where I was going or what I was doing. All I knew was that I wanted nothing to do with that world, the world of privilege and elitism and the world of, yeah, you know, none of it. I'm amazed, you guys. Do you know what's really nice? Like Luke Farah. Your comment hasn't even triggered me. And I gotta say, you guys, I've had like quite a lot of intensity happen in the last like few days, and I've had lots of emotion come up. But the stuff that would normally trigger me hasn't triggered me. And I feel like this is something I've practiced in my awareness so much, like just standing in the face of meanness and and attacking and you know, like who needs it? This is the kind of energy I just like I'm staring it down left, right, and center in my own awareness and in the collective as far as like enough is enough. Like being mean is just not cool anymore. Being cruel and bitchy and bully is not cool. Was it ever cool? I don't think it was ever cool. But still, I'm just like, yeah. You know, and here's my thing, like this is where I found enough courage in myself to speak up is that okay, yeah. Most of my life people call me crazy. Most of my life people ridicule me and laugh at me. And then I always just thought to myself, well, I personally think that what crazy looks like is like dropping bombs on groups of people and waging war and stealing from one another. I think that's crazy, personally. I think it's crazy that we live in a society and culture that doesn't talk about this stuff, that doesn't talk openly about what we're all going through. I think it's crazy that we live in a society that divides us all and makes us hate each other and that we don't question that contempt. I'm just supposed to go hide away in the shadows because there's a dominant program that makes people like me feel crazy while people like Donald Trump build walls and drop bombs. But that's okay because he's the president, so he can just do whatever the fuck he wants. But us, you know, little women in the world, we should just stay silent and be nice and bend over, you know? Like, fuck you guys, basically. Fuck out, you warmongers. Like, I got enough love for all y'all, like for rizzles. You know what I'm saying? Like, I actually have love and compassion for Donald Trump. I'm just tired of being silenced and made fun of by people that I don't know what. I don't even need to say anything mean or patronizing to people that are choosing to express hatred or choosing to troll, as people call it here, because I don't have any negative energy toward you or them. I just want to love and be free. And I'm pretty sure it's fucking working. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. We're just going to keep going. So you guys, I've totally gone off on a wonderful tangent for all y'all. But that's sort of making me think of this portal that we're in. Hi, Lindsay. How are you? This portal that we're in. So yes, the karmic cycles are completed. Yes, we're stepping into new lighter energies. There's still intensity, but we're going to be supported through the intensity, which is a big part of the difference. The manifestations are going to drop. Okay, whoa, I just had this weird visceral image happen where it was like, it was like the manifestations are going to start dropping in. if that makes sense. So it's going to be kind of like, there they are. So synchronicities, you guys might be experiencing some synchronicities right now. I am as well. And it's like the synchronicities are like lining up, lining up, lining up, manifestation. And then hence we're building up to this 2020 year. And the increasingly in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be manifestation information that drops into your reality that's going to open doors and make certain aspects of your future unfolding more clear. People, places, and things coming in, coming out. So now we're still sort of transitioning, letting go of the past, moving into the new, letting go of the past, moving into the new, discernment. Last couple of days I came live, I shared with you guys just the kind of intensity of the emotional clear-outs were happening, and they're happening fast. Hence what I was saying earlier of like, um, what was I saying earlier? It was, anyway, it doesn't matter. Oh, hi, Michelle. Michelle, do you know I saw your comment on the yoga I really appreciate that. Cuz I feel like that. Cuz I come from that angle of sometimes feeling judged or uncomfortable, or like I actually felt like I've been to studios or retreats where I just knew people felt intimidated and uncomfortable by the vibes of yoga. This is yoga. And I was like, is it though? Like, or is it just glamorous stretching a bit? I don't know. Like, because I mean, to me, yoga is not actually really about moving. Moving is just the side of it that's good for the body, which we do know. I'm like, it's not rocket science that us humans are aware that movement is good for us. Joyful movement, though, that's a big part of it. Okay, and then that's what I'm getting as well with the new energies, joy. So more joy levels, because we've because we've dropped those base tone energies, we can actually now be stepping into, yeah, be stepping into lighter energies, which simply feel more supportive, and then they also help us to clear and cut the old patterns more. So there's a real sneaky, I'm hearing sneaky little guilt program and shame program, very slight, that these shame and guilt programs are still running. And they have to do with us feeling responsible for other, just so you know. And I'm not talking about parents being responsible and or having a guardianship over their children. I'm talking about restrictive control domination stuff. And that's the energy that we're really bottoming out with. Because all of our shame and guilt is ultimately born out of that control. Boom. Don't feel, don't move, don't breathe, don't be who you are, right? You feel that, sweet. Hmm. And now it's just, and it is, we're all doing it. It's just part of this shifting. It's part of the mass awakening. We're not alone. I know it can often feel that, and we hold space for one another in those depths, because traversing consciousness can be a lonely endeavor sometimes, apparently. But we are here for each other, and we are finding each other, and we are attuning to these energies and navigating this stuff. One sideline note that I'm getting is just be super, super, super discerning when we're engaging with other in information portals, whether in encounters, like i.e. 3D reality facing and or online. I'm just aware, as some of you guys are as well, because I know like some of you randomly feel guided to this work as well, but like some of you joke about triggering people, or some of you joke about calling people out. And if you feel guided to do so, don't be frightened to do so. If you're thinking, I don't feel that you're talking legit from the heart, or I don't feel you're da da da, then you're allowed to just say, I don't buy it anymore. It's all resonance. And remember that we are in new paradigm, stepping away from the construct of like a control authority. So this is part of the like our rising into sovereignty in compassionate leadership, is that when you become a self-responsible human being, like it's it's easy to lead in a sense, right? Because there's no control. There's no there because the underlying control of our world is because the humanity is outworking the inner conflict. So our imbalanced sociopathic leaderships around the world, North Korea, America, a lot. A lot of the countries are run by sociopaths, unfeeling, sexist, racist, classist sociopaths. So, in our common humanity to address that, part of the compassion we have to feel is that there is a great wound, and part of the acting out in that way. Like, why would you have to just go around building buildings, huge, huge buildings, unless you had a huge distorted ego? Unless there was some part of you that wanted to prove how big your dick is to the world. Really. Like, without I'm not saying that to be mean or even funny necessarily, but really think about manifestation and how it works. Why would somebody have to act that out unless there was a deep, deep, infinite void wound of not enoughness? Enoughness to me, personally, my own perspective, enoughness to me looks like the Shire. I'm like, I just want to like pick apples and frolic around in the trees and climb the trees and go swimming in clean water. Like, this is another thing. So we've got themes now as we're moving into the new. We are here, we are vibrating paradigm shift energies. We here are vibrating new paradigm. We here, if you resonate on some level, regardless of where you are on your earth timeline in the here now, you are a leader of new paradigm energy. You are a transformer of energy. You are what I like to call the ground control vibrational cleaning crew. If you have empathy, you have the ability to transform darkness on this planet and rise yourself to love. Rise yourself to love and abundance. Be a more clear channel of love and abundance. In the interim, though, we do have potentially a little bit of sifting, a little bit of cutting out, and embodying more, and then opening our own heart to receive the love that we are. That's been the new mantra building up to this portal, you guys, is that I'm ready to receive my love. I love you guys. I love you guys, but in this weird sense, I'm like, but the truth is, I don't need your love. Why? How do I know? Because I got to love inside myself. So I've been working on creating all this love inside myself, and ultimately you guys are the representation of my own love showing up, and I then receive that love, and then I have more love to give, and then you guys give more love. You get me? All to love. And the process that I did there was ultimately just transform, surrender, face down all of my deepest, darkest, and ugliest shadows. All of my deepest, darkest senses of responsibility or guilt or shame, of my undeservingness, of my unworthiness, whether in this life or any other fucking life or any other part of this universe. It's like, I'm here now on this planet. What am I going to do? You know? And I know people in 3D reality would be like, well, you're just sharing crazy talk, right? You guys, you saw that comment before. You just talking crazy talk on YouTube. You're not doing anything. And I'm like, well, I guess that's your perspective. And then I was thinking about how, well, like, because there's this polarity in the slave mind mentality of like, well, you're being lazy, or like, who do you think you are? You can't just like share from your heart on YouTube and get by in this world. You can't just blah, 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 blah. But then I was always like, from my perspective, when I look at the cities and I look at how people are living and my awareness of the system, and I was like, but no, that's the easy way in a sense. No, that's not fair. It's not easy for anybody. It's all challenging for everyone. But my point was that I'm like, but I'm pretty sure like part of the paradigm shift is that none of us should have to work like that ever. We're not built for it. We're not designed for it. Plus, I'm pretty sure like so many of these sort of like base tone, just kind of slavey type jobs are not even going to be necessary for our future. And hence, what do we do? People are like, we're gonna take the jobs away. I'm like, oh God. Or we could just share our resources so that we don't have to work like slaves and that we're not producing a bunch of shit that we don't need anymore that then ends up in landfills and ends up polluting our oceans. And instead of being slaves, we can actually become creators. So that's like a big part of the shift, right? I just got that insight from basically connecting Kurt Mill. Kurt Mill talks about us moving from debt-based economy to resource-based economy. And I just thought about that. I'm like, that's basically what that is. We move from a hoarding mentality to a sharing mentality. So if we're all just sharing with each other, we don't have to slave for each other, which means that we don't have to work for any externalized industry. We can just literally live in the moment, love the earth, and enjoy this beautiful planet with each other, fondling each other's apples. Like, what am I talking about? Why do these things come out of my mouth? I blame it on you. Okay? Even though I don't blame an attack, but I do. Especially when it comes to apples and peaches. Oh, man. You guys. Hey, Rochelle. Hey. Oh, bye, Rochelle. Lots of love. Deborah, I know, right? It's so Deborah's making me just say, I'm like, God, yeah, it's just so much. We've just constantly like, but it's so true. Love yourself, another hard one. Yeah, embracing all of me, healing, present time, past lives too. Stop judging, criticizing, like, and then the more you do this stuff, the more you're so aware of like the polarity, and I call it the frequency jump. So if you go within and take withdrawal, every time you re-enter like 3D grid, or maybe you go hang out with like an old group of friends, increasingly, the more you do the inner work, you just have perpetual frequency jumps, i.e., you'll bounce back into like a reality. So like, oh yeah, these are just my friends, or oh yeah, I haven't seen my family for like a year, and then you go hang out with them, or you go hang out with old high school friends, and it's trippy because because you've lifted some veils. It's like, yeah, it's just trippy. You're not anchored in that reality anymore, and you can feel it. It's visceral. It's like, that's when you start to attune, I would say, to the like sacred geometric body, which is like the light body, soul, spirit. I also find the emotions are, so you have obviously materiality, the physical form of manifestation, and then you have the mental body, which is like the paintbrush. It like helps us to paint and create and like shapeshift everything, and also discern the connection, the yoking connection of like perceptibility, you could say. But then behind that, you have the emotional. The emotional to me is totally one with mind. So you have mental intellect via like brain neuro pathways. The emotional field is like the aura. It's one with spirit, I would say. You can't disconnect them. But this is part of my awareness as well, is you can't disconnect them. Even in our fractalized spiritual communities, people talk about like the mental body. We'll have to put around the mental body or the emotional body. Like they're all these separate little compartments that we can pick and choose. And I'm like, I don't feel like it works like that. Hence why presence is ultimately the best practice, because it's just like, and then why does yoga asana work? Yoga asana is a useful practice because it helps to sensitize us. Why does meditation work? It helps to clarify us, right? Sensitization and clarification allows us to be more aware and sensitized. And so we begin to relate to the biofeedback of our reality in a much more tangible, present, direct way, rather than being off just in our head, cut off and denied from the emotion, going around in patterned cycles that we've been programmed to go around to that are not natural for us at all, and then dying young via either the food that is killing us, the guns that are killing us, or the fucking medicines, or one another, for God's sakes, right? And then going, oh well, that's just how it is. And actually, it's not at all how it is. In fact, that is a really weird and distorted mainframe corrupted bug. Like, legit. In the cosmos, it's really interesting to me. The mother load. The motherboard. It's a big black spider, and it's gonna fuck off. But it has. Sorry, pardon my French. That felt really like, ugh, harsh. But maybe that's part of the energy of that false matriarch which is, of course, representative of the false patriarchy. And this is what we're actually transforming. Transforming, and I can see it's like an octopus energy, but more spidery in the sky. It's like leaving. So then we're not dominated by that overarching matriarchal spider energy. Like, what the fuck am I saying? But yeah. So this is also part of the us rising up. That energy, that distorted veil is now lifted, and then we're shape shifting it just via our being kind and compassionate and taking no shit. Basically just being like, it's not cool to be mean. like like Lilan X. Like, being mean was never okay. I'm like, I know, right? I'm like, when was it ever okay? And then somehow we're like, I guess for those people they thought it was okay. And we were always just the weirdos. But I'm like, we're mm, I'm randomly thinking about Morocco, guys. If you want to come to Morocco in October, it'd be nice to meet you there. Total side note. I feel there might be like some very clear messages coming through um for the new moon, you guys, that we're in, by the way, now. Yes, love and grace. Do you guys know I got a speeding ticket? What? Yeah. Although one of you guys is coming to help with my car today, so I'm really thankful for that. Mega appreciation across the niche. Yeah, I feel like there might be some more specific messages. Because actually, I just came live, and now we're all like chit chatting, like yeah, a chit chat. But what I'm aware of is just how important for now in these next few days, implementing standing down and grounding into your self love and self care practice. Really, I felt like I'm pretty sure that the United States is at war and dropping bombs in different countries. Is that not happening right now? I mean, I'm not really bothered if his personal finger isn't pressing buttons. He's the one, and his administration is ultimately sending drones and people to um, rage war in different countries. In fairness, Lilan as well, I'm not actually concerned. I do not follow politics. It's not necessarily my norm to talk about politics in this regard. Um, I really don't. I don't have much feeling sentiment for the modern leadership because I'm not invested in war cycles. So it doesn't really matter if someone's like actually dropping a bomb or not. It's the energy they emit, and if I'm not sensing a great deal of compassion coming from somebody, it's truly, literally mind telepathy. It isn't true leadership. Leaders are meant to care for the people that they lead. And again, this is what I mean. And see how like it get suddenly the vibration here starts to get more narrow and limited because we're talking about something specific and limited regarding the 3D paradigm. Paradigm shift is a complete revolution of the entire constructed reality. And I know this is why it's engaging conversation, because it's way bigger than any of us singularly can figure out. It's absolutely beyond the mental capacity on the 3D level, which is why, again, I'll remind myself that it sometimes gets futile to talk about the minutia in this regard, because this is something that's happening beyond the veil. It's happening to us via our soul. It has nothing to do with our mind and what we think we're here for. Right. Yeah, like trying to figure out, I don't know who did what and when did who and blah blah blue. For me personally, and this is, again, this is part of the solar activity of this gateway, is like I just am ready to let go of the fighting. I'm just ready to let go of the conflict. I'm just like, I'm ready for freedom. I'm ready for love, true love, real love that lasts, that doesn't control or condition or manipulate or try to pinch in or squeeze in or deny, you know? Oh, thanks, Julie. I remember I moved over here. Somebody asked a question about, can you define grounding down, please? Yeah. Grounding really is personally just about like being in your body rather than your head. So when we start to go like, "Ah," like getting stressed out, moving too fast, da 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 da, we're getting swept into what I call the default settings, which is just the accumulative habitual stress patterns that we've embodied over time. So to anchor, so to shift out of those default settings, grounding practices like shavasana, like meditation, like a little yoga. I again, you guys know I don't have that much pattern. I'm quite like just on flow all the time. Like last night, but I tend to do yoga poses throughout the day, for example, just randomly. Like it surprises me sometimes. I'll just find myself like hanging out in downward dog for a while, but I'm aware that it's intuition guiding me there because I might be getting a little out of it. I might have had a conversation with somebody that took me way out in front, and I can usually in my like in my energy field, I can usually feel when I'm starting to talk about something that's not relevant at all to this here now presence. So yeah, grounding to me is just coming into your body. Simple exercise, a simple grounding exercise is to just put your bare feet on the grass. Even things like meditation are often more effective when we're more grounded, like closer to the ground. Personally, I can definitely feel a difference when I'm meditating on on like higher ground. I can feel the difference. I prefer being close to the ground, even closer to the seabed. So that's a little explanation of some grounding. And then I'm certain that you could probably take that idea further. There's probably foods that are more grounding for us. Well, in fact, I'm sure we know that to be true. Warm stews and stuff like that personally are or heavy fattier foods are more grounding. I know that when if I'm having a lot of shifting or just moving through and if I have a sudden feeling of real hunger, I'll know that I'll desire like heavier food, fattier foods, more of it. Whereas like there are other times where I'll go into that density and I'll maybe have days where food is not necessarily that much part of my reality. And that's a cyclical thing that definitely connects to to my cycle as well. And it's just allowing those ebbs and flows, hence relinquishing control and having faith and trust. Because most of us are controlled to pardon me, we're indoctrinated and trained to have to micromanage our bodies like it's this separate sickly thing. You know, to exercise, to eat 3 meals a day, that is all hogwash essentially. Because we're such unique creators that we are unique with regards to how we operate in this operation system because we're the only ones that can figure it out. It's wild stuff. The 3D conformity system is really not real at all. It's not true. It's not functional. It's not efficient anymore. Might have been at one point, but it certainly isn't anymore. Especially because I think there's a lot of forgiveness. Like personally, I randomly caught something about Belgium apologizes to Africa for enslaving and stealing a bunch of its children, that kind of thing. I think about it in Canada sometimes because we have Native American tribes who were treated despicably and are still done so. And it's starting to change, but it's like whole nations are one for me personally, this is how I see again this transitioning phase for humanity is that whole nations are gonna have to forgive whole nations. And we really have to step out of our ego in this present moment in order to make amends. I don't care whether or not like I personally enslaved people, but my ancestors did. And as a lot of, you know, us in white privileged communities, we need to be able to open our hearts and address what our forefathers did to communities that are being further ghettoized, further enslaved, and victimized by a culture of divide and conquer and enslavement. You know, we're all responsible to a certain degree, you know, and I see that even in some of the more privileged spiritual communities is my mother actually shared an article by some love light guru, apparently, whom I don't know, so I there's no name to mention, but releasing an article about how some scientist was like, See, like, climate change isn't an issue, or climate change isn't even real. So something about like the 5D versus the 3D, and like those of us hanging out in the 5D, like, we're good. We don't need to worry about climate change or any of this. And now, you guys know I don't actually talk about the climate change a huge deal, because I do personally have like my own like perspective, and I'm not going to buy into the fear around climate change. However, I also like, to me, that is too much of denial. Because okay, yeah, like, climate change can be perceived as an egoic human thing, like, "Oh, right, we're gonna destroy this great planet, and I'm pretty sure she could wipe us out in, like, 2 seconds," right? So it's an arrogant concept, but then at the same time, I'm like, could we stop denying the fact that we're not living in alignment? Okay, call it climate change, call it Armageddon, call it war cycle after war cycle, whatever we wanna call it, we're a humanity that's in conflict. And it's the conflict, to me, that is the distortion, not climate change, not war cycles, not even the economy. These things are just symbolic representation of our own distortion, of our own fucked up perspective, of our own denied inner child, you know? And it's all of this stuff that continuously sort of astounds me, that we miss the point, and that we go round circles trying to dominate and control one another, rather than embodying the true mastery of self, which is the Christ, which is the embodied manifested state, which more and more of us are here to endeavor and shine and share with each other. Okay, and then that's bringing me back to this solstice energy. This is where we're at. We're just going to keep being ourselves, and the world's going to reflect that badassery. It's exciting times. I know we're in the heavies, but at least we're not alone. And at least it's tangible and obvious that we're not alone, because you guys are here. It's been like 15 years, you know? It's been like 15 years that I've been like just crying on the streets and trying not to die. Or end up completely homeless and destitute, because I've been really close to that many times. So you guys appearing on the other side of the phone has been, to me, the manifestation of new paradigm in my reality. Because, like, I'm gonna cry, obviously, because it's been so fucking emotional, but it's been a long time getting to this point where there's friends on the other side of the screen who actually understand what I'm talking about. And then there's more reflections that the material that my heart wrote in the Fearless Life Guide is relevant to enough of you, you know? And, yeah, it's just a lot of love. You know, you guys? Yeah, I'm reading Julie's comment up here saying, in a healthy, whole world, who needs leaders? Right. Kids are raised around virtuous people and don't need laws. Oh, I just love like having you guys here to chat to and be like, oh, I feel like literally coming home. Feels like literally like finally. Oh my god, yeah, you guys get what I'm talking about, actually. Like, actually. Hi, Deborah. Deborah, oh wait, let me go up. There's a bit of conversation happening. Yeah, I guess this is my thing. I've never ever in my whole entire life really been into the economy or investment. Like, because when I had my awakenings when I was 19, here's the weirdness of my insight. What I had as an insight around the economy was that it was just a big pool of money. And I guess the kind of most vicious people could just like push everyone aside and grab whatever they wanted. So but then also when you're coming from divine perspective, you also deep down know that you don't need it. That is symbolic of its energy. And I got to say, like, the times in my life where I was most like close to either homelessness or bankruptcy, uh, those were the times that proved me. Oh yeah, so those were the times that either random people would appear. Those would be the times where like like new friends would show up and buy me lunch, buy me food, bring me a little bit of cannabis. You know, like I wrote out those times with absolutely nothing, refusing to go get a job because obviously that was throughout. People would be like, "You need to get a job," and I'd be like, "No, fuck it. I'll be homeless. I don't care." You know, it's like that. So, but then when you write them out, and some of you guys know, there's been a lot of miracles that have happened in my life because it's just like hard love vibrashe, donashe sort of thing, the divine guidance. And that's what Yogi Bhajan talks about. Vibrate to the cosmos and the cosmos shall clear the path. Essentially, that's pretty much what my life has been like. I just would never cross some sense of arrogance when you think of like vibrating the cosmos. People are like, who the fuck do you think you are? You can't vibrate the cosmos. I'm like, we are all simply the cosmos, embodied in this tiny little form to be like, whoa, look at the cosmos. I'm like, yeah, we're that too. Like, life is infinite and awesome. Artful mind. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I always have a bed here. I know. I had another one message me yesterday about living in LA and be like, if you ever want to come to LA, I was like, this is what I mean. I'm like, who needs it when you just have friends, all like genuine friends? And like, this is what I mean about some of the energies that I've cut out or just kind of like left behind with love. But like, these are like besties, like really tight friends. But that when I would go to theirs and like help them with stuff, they would say stuff like, it's okay, like you don't have to pay to stay. And I'm like, like I would never, like I didn't grow up like that. Like I invited homeless people back to my place before. I'm quite like, everyone come be love. And people have been like, Molly, what the fuck? I'm like, what they're saying? Well, no, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone either. But like just pinchy, tight, petty, and again among friends or stuff I observed. Like I was always somebody like this is also my generosity and abundance piece. I'm always somebody who would like give freely because it felt good to give, and also because like in my mind, for even though I never had a great deal, like I always had enough. So like my mental setting was like I have enough, so I'm gonna give because I've always got more than enough. So and because that's kind of always been the case, but many times like living on the edge of like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna see this one through, but like amazing shit would basically happen. And like even you guys are my miracle. You guys are like a miracle to me. And this is part of like my bullseye target was making a career online. It was only last year that I actually started to attract in online people, and it was 2 years before that I was just showing up like every day, right? And I feel like that. I feel like all the scams, all the like how to make your life work online or whatever. I've realized after all these years, it's just the same as work in the 3D reality. Like the 5D working life is still the same. You have to be consistent, you have to show up, and you have to do good business. You have to have integrity. And when you do good business, you have good business relationships, and then your business grows. But for me, it hasn't happened some overnight quick fix scam on the internet that was like, how to market your business. Because I was like, I don't want to do that. I just want to be real and let it grow organically. I often think of the story in the Bible about Jesus manifesting all the fishes and the wine. And I'm like, I just want to like do that. Like just show up with my homies and be like, yo, resources. And we're all like, boom. Christhood. I don't know, like, you know, it's just like that. Oh, Jennifer, hello, my lovely. You guys, Jennifer creates amazing products. Actually, it's in my yoga bag. Um, I have some of her yoga mat spray, her vinyasa yoga mat spray, and it's all lovely organic. And she's just one of the gang, you know. So if you ever hit up, well, and also, so lovely Jennifer, giving you a smooch. You can also find her shop link on Altalove, altalove.com/shop. And then down below, you'll see I've got a friend's CBD oil range, and then Jennifer's link to her products. And you guys are good in the US because it's maybe less shipping. I don't know, less shipping costs. Anywho. Oh, yay! Brilliant, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm gonna post your spray again. Oh, and I absolutely love the you sent me something else. It's like pardon me, it's like the perfect travel companion for yoga people because it's like a yoga strap. So you don't need to have the whole bag around the yoga mat. You can just wrap the strap and then carry it, and I just love it. So thanks so much for that. I was well chuffed. Well chuffed to get that in the post, and I really appreciate the vinyasa mat because I now spray my mat after practice, which is really quite nice actually. So you guys, like I said, I'm getting rather inspired to like go live quite a lot. Plus, I'm aware of my data is going to run out soon, so and I have calls and stuff and work to do today. So that's it. I hope that was some juicy nuggets for Sometimes the expressions I use, I'm like, that's not appropriate, Molly. Stop using the expression juicy nuggets. I'm like, I just had the worst visual pop into my mind. I'm like, yeah. And that's what you're putting in the mind of your people, juicy nuggets. I'm like, gross. I'm going off of it. I'm going off of juicy nuggets, guys. I need to replace it with something else. Wisdom titties? I don't know. Fucking shut up. So, I'm gonna read my Rochelle and Majuli. He's going to have to explain to me what the heck homies really mean. I don't know. Homies, buddies, like home. Now I get it. Home. Like, you know how we're like, we're coming home together. You guys are like home to me. You're like my homies, right? And then we can all just be homies together. You know, like that feeling of going home, being at home, like there's nothing else. That's what happened. Take down the heart walls and remember that your home is here. The altar of God is right here, you guys. I know, it's from 3D World, you're like, whatever. Like, it's fucking legit. You just have to be courageous and bold enough to go for it. And because there's a whole bunch of veils of judgment you have to cross through, hence all this deep emotional shit, because it's painful. Who knew healing separation would be a rather painful endeavor in these human bodies, but hey-ho. For sure, Julie. For sure. So, and that is also the polarity, I would say, of some of the spiritual circles that I personally have come into, especially from a perspective of hardship and lack. It's that, that happens, I think, way too much. We limit ourselves. We don't give of self. No, and I'm not at all. I don't believe in the sacrifice stuff at all. In fact, I feel like that's quite an insidious belief system or program in some spiritual circles. This sort of sacrifice, like it's not about the money, you know. Like I don't need or like, but then that's a victimhood state, you know, and it's a great way to shame us. I didn't charge money for my yoga. I showed up every fucking day in the Liverpool city center at a studio that I paid $5 to hire, a little arts bohemian center, and hoping that I get at least one person to cover my cost, you know. And for 2 years, I was just doing donation-based yoga classes because, you know, if you're a true spiritual person, you don't ask for money, right? And it was A Fest. It was 2014 ultimately in A Fest, and basically because I bottomed out and turned 30 and had enough of poverty, basically had enough of this level of kind of like desperation. And so again, committed, manifested, started making money in the yoga career. And then I had to start to outwork all of that shame and kind of guilt programming around making money as a quote unquote spiritual person. Because, yeah, that's weirdly how I got into entanglements with a lot of people is like money's never been a big thing for me. And I kind of assumed that for especially spiritual people or yoga people, that it wasn't for them either. But then oftentimes that's what the intuitive sword would have to cut out was that they had some kind of distorted relationship with money that meant that they never wanted to share their money, if that makes sense. And I always felt like that's not cool. And at the same time, these would be people like, I don't want to talk about that. Or like, oh no, 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 it's not about the money. It's not about the money. And I was like, well, and here's always my thing as somebody who's never had a huge amount was that is a real manipulative thing to do when you have lots of it. Oh, it's not about the money. And you're like, okay, but you have lots. It's really easy for people with lots of money to talk about it like it's no big thing. But my awareness was that, but the majority of the planet doesn't necessarily even have access. And then the majority are then said, just work hard. Work hard at what? Doing what? For minimum wage? Well, we all know minimum wage does fuck all. So it's like, hence our discussing it. Hence our ability just to talk about it and be able to hold space for like some discomfort that might come up. Because no wonder money is intertwined with our survival and our enslavement, which is kind of going hand in hand here. So our ability to look really deeply at like our relationship with money. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, I still feel like I'm tired. I'm getting really tired of raging against the system, which I feel that some of you might get there as well, and that you're kind of feeling me on that. The truth of it is, and I'm really at the precipice of it, it's imminent for me, is that it really is us working out our own worthiness. Because you guys, us here, we're not judging each other. I don't care if you're rich or poor or fat or skinny or da 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 da. It's resonance. It's just resonance, It's feeling. It's us going, yeah, I'm lucky. I'm grateful. I'm in love with life. I'm open to receive my love. I'm open to have no judgment whatsoever around money and wealth and finances and actually be free and enjoy. So truly, truly, we can manifest more abundance when we're in love with self and when we're in love with life. And we want to dig in deep to find that level of worthiness and the deservingness. It's just that outworking of success not looking like what we think, and basically not making business and money an excuse to be a dick. And I guess in a really simple way, that's because of my unworthiness. My deep down unworthiness patterns invited situations and relationships where people manipulated me and, did weird shit around money. But that had to do with my discomfort around being clear, being right. So you work it out and then you get clear and then you have little tests and then you keep cutting shit. You keep cutting out the bull and then inviting the sunshine. Like you guys are my sunshines, my only sunshines. You make me happy. Oh, skies are gray. Like for real, you do though. And then I'm suddenly aware, but like no pressure, you guys, honestly. It's okay if you want to stop watching this channel. Like I'll still love you no matter what. Abil, how fascinating. Look at what Abil's written. Isn't that beautiful? In ancient India, spiritual teachers used to take money. And that too in advance, in case you got nirvana and were not bothered afterwards. Yeah. Well, and then that's also like me, I was working that out. I'm like, guys, the Catholic Church has always taken money from people. So I'm like, what the fuck, 3D reality? So it's okay for the church, the so-called most spiritual and enlightened institution of the world. They take money from all we used to in my church days. I can remember in our congregation every mass, so every Sunday there would be like this plastic thing that went around, and every person, and there were probably like hundreds of people in our congregation, everybody would put money in. They just collect money. They just tax their fucking parish. So the churches can be really nice. But then the parish lives in relative poverty. Taxation. You make people feel like guilty sinners. They'll do anything to fit in and be special. It's clever. It's cunning. It's not clever particularly. It's cunning. You guys, I just like scroll down, and the first thing that I notice is assholes. I'm pretty sure I was talking about my asshole yesterday. Oh my lord. Hi Chris, how are you, my friend? Awesome. Yeah, yeah. So it's not about working. We're out working a lot, and in the simplest sense, it really just comes down to like love yourself and be compassionate, and it's heavy duty, and just keep loving and just keep showing up and just keep loving and just keep showing up and just move through the energies and just keep loving and just keep showing up because life is just going to keep going even when you put down the bodysuit. Right, even when this little flesh suit gets shed, MJ is still like, I'm still gonna go. And then another beautiful comment, assholes, and then right, MJ, and don't buy from dicks. Exactly. This is the whole thing now. This is the whole part of like the practicality of spiritual awakening paradigm shift. It's like, all right, let's sniff out the people who are being dicks and boycott all their biz so that they have some lovely lessons in love and truth. Because it would appear that on this path you do, it's like Yoda. Patience. Well, it is patience. Learn you must. That's a quote from the Fearless Life Guide. But the other one is something like, this is about expansion coming into our light, but you must be willing to lose. Oh, you must be willing to let go of all that you fear to lose. And in my I've had 3 big ones, transformational cycles. In each one, either I willingly let stuff go or they got removed from my life, people, places, things. And it was almost like the energetic attachment to that old life grid. That's what all gets cleansed. And it's only that we're like attached to it as a part of my identity. That's the painful bit. But then once you shed all that, i.e., allow myself to feel the depth of my ebb and flow as a creator, then that tide going out or that wave going down, that eventually will come up again. And that's what we're on the precipice of. So what I can feel that these last few months, the tide's been going out and out and out and out, because a lot of us, the wave we've been projecting into the field is the biggest one yet. So we've been having these transformational cycles throughout our lives that have been like the tide going out, a wave coming in, the tide going further out, a wave coming in. This one's the biggest one yet. Tide going out, a big wave coming in. Hence why so many of us in this new paradigm community are like standing on the precipice, standing on the edge, and now we're finding each other and we're just linking arms going, okay, this time I'm not alone taking a leap. I was the last 2 times. I was just by myself in this world of darkness being like, ah, 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 and then like working it out from within. Like so many of you guys also have just been on your own working it out from within, and then we find one another and go, shit. See? So I'm not just freaking right. And so this is it. Now we're not crazy. Now we're linking arms with our feet on the ground, taking ready to soar into energies we knew were always available. We just hadn't experienced. Most of us haven't experienced the shift in form on Earth, certainly. And yet I know for a fact that most of us here, the reason we understand one another is that we have undergone physical shift and transformation in other universes and other dimensional realities in various incarnate states. Hence why we have the awareness we have, and why we want to continue to permission each other to drop the external knowledge and yoke your fusion, yoke your intuitive capacity. Because it's the intuitive capacity unlocking the light codes that we are, that is expanding the paradigm shift, right? Not how many books we read, not like, well, so and so, my spiritual guru said this. No, no, no. You have to become the embodied state to teach. Amazon. What's the Amazon comment about? Funny, because you guys are, I'm appreciative of enough because I could self-publish the book, which was nice. But yeah, I get quite a few of you guys who don't want to, as in you guys, some of you boycott that business, which I understand. Some of you though, if you ever wanted a personal copy signed by me, the author. But I usually would like love hot vibrashe MJ. I can send you one. It's more money though, considerably more. It's like $10 more for me to send it because it costs me more money. Yeah. Hey, yes, Divine Sight. I'm sure I saw you writing that shit. Oh, boy. I'm gonna go to the sea today. I'm kind of hoping it's warm and sunny so that I can work in my tan, so that I can be a little bit sexalicious tan fiberish for the festival. And then I can't even believe it. I'm literally going to be driving to Portugal in like 2 weeks. It's quite an adventure, and I am really looking forward. Hey, by the way, also, there was a couple of you who reached out personally extending some love heart about yesterday's share, and I really appreciate it. I'm softening so much, and it's miraculous to me that you guys are all my friends. Like genuine. So it's loved and felt like very, very really and divinely. Yeah, there is an audio, Chris. So Chris, the audio is on Audible, and I'm pretty sure it's on not YouTube, it's on iTunes. Actually, my audiobook is the bestseller, and it's me. I just read my book out loud into a microphone for like 2 days. There's my actor world coming back to me, my voiceover stuff. And then there's an actual moment, I think. I don't know if the producer kept it in or not, but I joked about it. But the moment in the book where I actually quote Yoda, I'm pretty sure I tried to do, I was like, patience! Learn must. And I just laughed. I was like, please, can we keep it in? And there were quite a few blooper moments where I don't know if you've ever tried to read a whole book out loud. So it's kind of boring, actually. Oh, thanks, Chris. I just love you guys. And I love how much love you guys have among one another and how we're growing this community. Julie, you're right on. Of course. How did I not know that? I'm like, don't buy from Dick's. I'm like, God damn it. You're so correct. I know, because the Dick's just like, I don't know. I don't understand. It's so different from my point of attraction that I'm like, why do people want to just make loads of money to buy huge mansions that they barely live in? Or build huge mansions that destroy the natural habitat and then, I just don't understand. Hence why Revel, I'm not even going to show that comment. There's a comment hidden, held for review from Revel because it's fucking rude. I can laugh about it, but I'm not even going to show it to this group, Revel. Yeah. So Audible, and I'm with you on the Amazon. Well, this is it. We can do our best. And actually, I was having a little vision imagination of, for some reason, doing some kind of like talk in front of an audience of people, like not doing this, but actual like download, like sitting down on the stage sort of thing. And that whoever was questioning me was asking about this as far as what can people do to inspire change, to be a change maker, all that business. And uh, interestingly, Julie, that came up for me in this imagination of doing an interview. Um, I was like, saying it. You know, what can we do? What can people do to help? Stop buying from dicks, you know, like stop buying from companies like that you know aren't doing good for the planet. You know, like I haven't had McDonald's or bought from McDonald's since 2001. Like I'm increasingly like, you know, boycotting the corpse and only buying local food where possible and, you know, doing my utmost, although I'm really not like, but I surround myself with people like Katie Finch who are hardcore advocates of zero waste lifestyle or low waste. She's zenful, but like low waste. You know, I'm really into the vegan stuff because I think it's a positive move and I feel like we should be moving in that direction. I don't want to judge people who still want to work in corporate jobs. I don't want to judge people who say, well, I think this is the whole thing is that I just don't want to, I'm let go of all judgment and I just want to be free. So we can do this. We can just go be free. If people still want to work in corporation, if people still want to focus on enslavement, if people still want to like bust their bodies to slave and get money, blah, blah, great, fine, good for them, honestly. More power to them if that suits them, that Amazon guy. Like fine, if that feels good, if that suits him personally. I don't get the vibrashe that he's a particularly happy, joyful spirit, but alas, you know, each to their own. They're fine, go do that. But then I'm like, okay, but if they can do that, we can do whatever we want to. Like it's kind of like that. Hence me going like, well, if Donald Trump can talk about the stuff he talks about, I think I can talk about the stuff I talk about. Now, obviously, I'm not comparing myself to a president, but like, but I kind of am. Oh, well, no, regardless of status, that's kind of the new paradigm. Regardless of status and power, we're all human. So we all are allowed to express and share just like anybody else, around anybody else, you know? Anyway, now that I've blabbed on for an hour and 22 minutes, I'm going to do I'm going to do not a live, but I'm going to do a tarot. I like, oh, by the way, so I go on Love on Instagram. Love on Instagram. I do daily intuitive tarot on Instagram. And then I think I'm just going to do monthly here. I might do weekly, but it's kind of a lot. But that's okay. Like if spirit wants me to, I shall. Which is really just me. But the tarot readings are going really well. I've had just over like a handful of bookings, and actually everybody has been like, wow, amazing, like really good read. Thanks for the advice. And I'm like, yay. So that's been really fun. So if you guys want to book a reading, please feel free to do so. Open the floodgates. That's right. Bring it. Bring it. Hashtag no filter on my mouth. It's like for reals, right? Increasingly, that's part of why I have to continue to go into the online world and not go back into community world, because sometimes I'm back in 3D paradigm and I'm like sharing like this, and then I can feel the edges, and that people are like, they're having either cognitive dissonance or they're having some kind of hardcore reaction, which they have no idea why they're having or what's going on or what I'm saying, but it's not comfortable for them. And so I'm like, yeah, I need to sort of bounce out of, in this quiet coastal town. I just watched Beauty and the Beast a few days ago, so I must have that in my mind. But yeah, I forget that I'm living on the edge. That I live kind of radically from within. And so sometimes when I meet people, it just reminds me, you guys were radical, and yeah, we've chosen to lift ourselves off, and that starts to shapeshift the old reality frequency, and thus people's perception of us and or judgments of us, which makes it different, which is why we want to kind of continue. Hence, we find these groupings, we find these soul congregation families, and then we align with, I don't know, a few times a year, meeting up in different parts of the world, having a jolly frolic, having a really nice time, and then supporting each other in our lives back in, we all have a function and a purpose in this paradigm shift, and we're helping each other to bring it out. The vision that you're carrying inside your imagination is ultimately your truth. That's who you are. That's your potential. That's your divine blueprint. We wouldn't access it. We wouldn't have it in a mind unless we could birth it. I wouldn't still be doing this whole thing if I didn't believe and know that to be true. But it's a wild ride, and the soul lessons are as much about breaking our ego down, because it's pretty powerful. It had to be to survive here. So a big part of our shift is just breaking our ego down and remember the childlike innocence that we are, to embody that and shine that for one another, so that we unlock the codes in one another. And I can see it happening in the way that you guys show up for me and how I show up for you, and how we continue to yoke that, because there's more sovereignty energy. So making sure we find our guides and teachers and people that are in that equanimous exchange space. They understand it, they feel it, they know how it works, and they're not gonna limit themselves based on the condition of a construct of limitation. Yes, exactly. Unlock the codes for shizzles. They are, Rochelle. Rochelle, I feel that as well. There's just more space to work with the vibrations for you as well. I'm just getting some weird insight about the sacral chakra and all the chakra points, and a bit about our like function as well. Equal energy exchanges. Yeah, for sure, right? And you guys, like, this sort of foundational tribe, I feel, is really supportive, because you're resonating so profoundly. It's like the vision unlocking of like this alta love mish, this paradigm shift mish, Um anyway, you guys. I always do this, don't I? Like 60 minutes in, or like 45 minutes, we're like, okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. You're like, okay, bye, love, 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 love. And then like another 45 minutes goes by. I'm like, I'm still talking. Anyway, I have a lot of love and appreciation, and you guys know that. It's like I don't even need to express it, because you can just feel the hot love vibrashe. So yeah, go ahead, check Instagram. If you are on Instagram, fair dues, you can get your daily intuitive reading for fun. And otherwise, but I'm here with you guys most days too. So it's really exciting. Lots of new beginnings for a lot of us. Really, really great connections here, you guys. Thank you so much for reaching out and being who you are, and being real. Just like you guys reflect back to me the gratitude of like, thank you for being real. I'm like, I know, right? God, it's been a long time coming. Who knew? Like, just be yourself. What does that mean? I don't know. Okay. I love you guys. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking to you guys real soon. Love you. Bye.